Howdy, everybody. Today, I will be talking to you about my idea for how to operationalize a network state. This says I only have 5 minutes. I originally scheduled this talk for 10, so I don't know what happened there, but we'll see. Anyway, here we go. Network states have a problem, as originally conceived by my friend Balaji. They have a problem. They need public goods. So they need infrastructure. They need physical security. They need someone to defend them. These are very difficult things to do if you're just a network of sort of independent people living in various host countries that typically provide these public goods. You also need scale for a bunch of other things. A traditional state needs investment. It needs trade. It needs skilled professionals. These in a globalized economy like ours, those are becoming more and more important. So I see some possibilities of gains for trade here. So I came up with this idea called network cities. Basically, think about Hong Kong. There's a number of places like this that serve as entrepôts, semi-autonomous communities, regions, a city that directs investment and trade to a larger host country. And with the internet, these entrepôts can exist all over the world and kind of coordinate with each other. So essentially, my idea is for a network of Hong Kongs, like pre-2019 Hong Kongs. So Hong Kong was very special because they had this one country, two systems arrangement that came out of this agreement between China and the UK. And for for about 20 years, it persisted and it was stable. And so Hong Kong had its own law, its own currency. It was autonomous but not independent. If you attacked Hong Kong in 2005, that was an attack on the People's Republic of China, and you would get smacked. But Hong Kong was able to provide its own infrastructure and stuff. So every country could have its own Hong Kong, its own autonomous city, that functions as an entrepot to bring in trade and investment, but which is guarded and has security provided by this host country, and which can provide its own public goods. And so every country could have one. Indonesia could have one, Brazil could have one, Nigeria could have one, the European Union could have two. Technically, China has two. Macau is another one. So the host country here would be incentivized to provide both security and infrastructure. So the city itself could provide infrastructure. You can build your own trains. You can build your own water system, sewage system. You can build your own telecom. The host country can help out with that, connecting it to the mainland, wherever it is. But then in terms of security, the big country will guard you. And so you get public goods provided like that. But there's a big problem, obviously. Hong Kong, so I thought of this idea while on a rooftop in Hong Kong in 2019, hiding from the police, because I'd gone to see the big protests in Hong Kong, which was related to China taking over Hong Kong and sort of absorbing it. And I was thinking, how could we make this not happen? And the idea is, if you had a large global network of these entrepôts that all coordinated with each other, they could reroute trade and finance around any country that absorbed and conquered its network city. So suppose everybody's got a Hong Kong, and if any country absorbs its Hong Kong type of network city, and it conquers it and crushes it, as China did to Hong Kong, you lose out. You lose on investment. You lose on trade. You lose on all the things that this entrepot brings to you. The network punishes you. And so that's... So there's an interesting historical model for this called the Hanseatic League, which is this league of German merchants in the 1200s through 1400s that existed in North Europe. And basically, they didn't have real territory. They had these little trading districts called contours that were carved out of various European cities. But it was primarily just this independent network of merchants from various cities that would punish you if you blocked their trade, right? And so that was the Hanseatic League. And so they famously punished the city of Bruges in Belgium for blocking their trade. And a modern-day network of network cities would be able to do that. And so the other thing about network cities is they could have free movement of people, capital, and everything like that between them. So you imagine 100 different Hong Kong type of cities around the world where if you live in one, you can just freely move to all the other. But mobility will be restricted, population mobility will be restricted between the city and the mainland. And so I actually don't know if that was just a mistake. Someone put 5 minutes, or I actually have the full 10 minutes that I was supposed to have. But, all right, we'll just do 5 more minutes. All right, yay. Okay, so basically, the problem with the network state, as Balaji conceived it, is an interesting idea. The problem is that you've got all these people, a human network, dispersed throughout the world, and these people, freedom of movement is determined entirely by the host country. But with these network cities, freedom of movement would be determined by the network itself. So you, as a resident of one of these places, would be free to move to any of the other places. And this would be, for all the people in this room, you can immediately see the sort of attractiveness of this. Also, you could have a movement of capital. So you could have, for example, like a large holding company. Imagine a Temasek-like company that operates, maybe it could be headquartered in Singapore, maybe on the blockchain if you really want. Somehow, this company could be somewhere, but it would coordinate, sort of like investment and trade finance between all these cities. And so this provides an enormous benefit to the host country. So if you're a country like, suppose you're Indonesia, all right, and you have one of these, you put an island and you're like, okay, this island is autonomous, it's technically part of Indonesia, but anyone from any of these other cities around the world can move there. They just can't move to the rest of Indonesia unless we give our say-so, okay? So you do that, and then this city can route FDI. It can route, like investment in like manufacturing, real estate, anything, startups through that city, just as Hong Kong has done to China for many, many years. And then if you live in that city, you have to apply to move to the rest of Indonesia, but you can freely automatically move to any of the other cities in Brazil, in Europe, in anywhere else that they are around the world. And so essentially what this does, this creates a new kind of state, okay? It would be a true network state. Just one network state, I think Balaji originally envisioned multiple network states functioning sort of like these different overlapping communities, but this would be one network state. It would be a network of all these cities around the world, but it would be an incredibly powerful network state, and other human networks of the type that I think Balaji envisioned could exist within this network. They could exist within this network of cities, because altogether, Hong Kong has, I don't remember, 7 million people or something, or 5 million, thereabouts. If you had, say, 30 of these, right, you've got over 100 million people. That's a large-sized state globally. And so lots and lots of different human networks can exist within that state, okay? And so this one network state would then create the space for many other networks to exist inside it, and public goods are provided at the level of the city-state or by the host country in the case of national defense. And so in one fell swoop, you solve all of these thorny questions. You solve all of these problems of how a network state is supposed to work, right? You solve the problem of who's going to build the roads, because the city builds the roads. You solve the problem of who's going to build the telecoms and the sewers. And at the same time, you solve the problem of national defense. Not entirely, because you still have the host country can still try to absorb the city-state, and you have to like punish it if it tries to do that. But in terms of other countries attacking it, just randomly attacking you, or piracy or whatever, the host country will protect you because you're technically part of its country. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And the problem with the original network state concept, was that many states would see network states as parasitical on them, because they rely on these local public goods. But a network state composed of this network of city-states would be completely symbiotic. It would be a win-win situation. And in the age of the internet, I think we have opened a space, we have opened the possibility of a new kind of state coexisting with existing traditional states in a symbiotic fashion. And I think that essentially, this is a combination of the idea of network state and charter cities, which is a thing that lots of people affiliated with this community have been interested in and are trying to do in various places around the world. And so I think that essentially this is a way to operationalize the original network state concept in a way that sort of solves all the problems at once and creates a win-win situation between network states and traditional states, so you don't have to have this conflict, but sort of everyone can win. and it would create this environment that I think lots of people in this room would find very pleasing to live in, this network of cities. So anyway, that's my talk.
All right. That's it? Yep.
Sorry? If the host countries attack each other, I mean, that's a problem called war, and it's really a problem that exists for all countries at all times. And I don't know how to solve war right off the top of my head, but I will say that Hong Kong is as well protected by China's military as Shanghai now. So that's probably the best we can do. Anyway, all right, thanks everybody.
Thank you to Noah.